That's okay, I'm leaning because my back is killing me. Is this being recorded, or can I say that my wife's overworking me on this?
It's being recorded.
Being recorded.
Unless my phone's died.
I would not have an objection, Jim, if you would like to sit down.
Why don't you sit down?
If you don't mind, I would
If you sit right there in between Don and John, there you go. We can see you and the camera will probably pick you up.
Thank you. So, you've already heard that Miami Township is asking for a 3.5 mil renewal and an additional 3 mils for our fire. With the proposed, the previously proposed Hamilton County Sheriff's contract, which the village has already signed on to, are, in essence, what they're saying they're gonna provide is 3 cars. The sheriff is gonna provide 3 cars, but in 2024, Miami Township, North Bend, and Cleves are only gonna pay for the cost of 1.5. Excuse me. 2024, we were gonna pay for 1.5. Did I do? Oh, I may have copied the same thing twice. You may not have the correct information.
It's on both sides.
Yeah, but he said
Same
it's the
thing.
same thing on both sides.
So, all right, let's work a little bit from my memory. We were gonna pay for 1.5 and 2, then 2.5 and 3, as we went along. Mike Robeson and I went to the county administration. We bypassed the sheriff's department in this, which probably didn't make them happy. And we said, we feel like the 3 cars is an arbitrary number that the sheriff picked, along with the rabbit out of the hat. Previously, Miami Township was covered with 1 car and an 8-hour power car 40 hours a week. That covered Miami Township and North Bend. So we said, where's the justification for the 3 cars? Well, that's what the sheriff said we need. We said, well, and here's our problem. There's no mechanism in there to review that. And we're stuck going to our residents and saying, we need more money for our fire department. If we're gonna go with this contract, we've gotta ask for more money for, we have a small police levy on now. And we've gotta ask for an additional amount there. If we go in and ask for 2 levies, renewals and additions, there's a good chance that none of it's gonna pass. And then we can't pay you when we can't provide fire service. So you gotta work with us. So what we worked out was stretching out that phase-in of the amount that we paid for. So instead of 1.5, 1.752, we went 1.5, 1.5, 1.75, 1.75, 2, and 2. The county can only do 3-year contracts, they tell us. That gets us through 2 contract periods. And the agreement is, at the end of that 2 periods, we will look at the calls for service, we'll look at the needs for the cars, and we'll reevaluate. Do we really need to pay for 3 cars? Can we get by paying for 2? Can we get by paying for 2 and a power car? Do we need 4? Maybe we need 4. Who knows? But the contract would at least allow us to continue on to pay for those 3 cars. So they were willing to spread this out to get the deal done. It helps us with not having to ask the residents for additional money right now. We can probably fund this, I think Cindy said 327 without having to ask for additional money for the police levy. So they were good enough to make this offer. One of the side benefits of that is it reduced the amount that the village would pay, the village of Cleves would pay, along with North Bend. So, but they wanted to keep the numbers the same for everybody. So it would actually be a reduction in the amount that that the village of Cleves would pay each year over the next 6 years. So
I thought you said you could maybe do a 3-year contract.
they can, but in this agreement, we're basically saying, we'll do this for 3 years, we'll do this next bunch for 3 years, then we're gonna reevaluate. Well, they can only put it in writing for 3, we're saying that we're willing to make this agreement, that the next 3 years we'll do this.
And are they saying they're willing to do it as well, but it won't be in writing?
It won't be in writing, but we will have their proposal in writing. And I can tell you, if I was sure that Jeff Aludo, the county administrator, and Lisa Webb, the assistant administrator, were gonna be there at the end of 6 years, I'd have no problem signing it for 6 years, if they could do it.
Well, they can't do it.
But I don't know how long Jeff's gonna work, I don't know whether Lisa will be there, we don't know who the 3 people in the county commissioner's office down the hall from them is gonna be in 6 years. So, we have to be careful with this.
Are we paying for 3 cars right now for the township wide? Not just what Cleves is. Is the contract right now covering 3 24/7 cars?
No, right now, we're paying for one 24-hour car at the township, excuse me, and the village is paying for 12 hours, but supposed to be receiving a 24-hour car.
That's not happening.
So, I'm just telling you what the agreement was.
I can tell you the phone call I got the other night at home from somebody who came over here because of a road rage issue. This was at 8 o'clock in the evening. They rang the bell. They couldn't get anybody to respond. They called the 825 number out there. The actual situation started over here at Fern Bank and ended all the way through Cleves. It was a road rage issue. Still have the message on my recorder, all the way out to suspension. All right, he circled back and came here. When he called, they said, you need to talk to District 1. Well, he didn't call District 1. My number was out there on the front window. He wound up calling me. I called the sheriff's department, explained the situation, gave him the name and the phone number. And he was still standing there. And he goes, hey, there's somebody who just went out the back door. So they didn't answer. They went out the back door. And I'm not positive on this, but my guess is that she got in her car and came around to the front. So they can say whatever they want to say. Jim, you sat in the meetings back in 2020. You can remember as well as I can remember, everybody here, including these members on council, heard that the sheriff's department was going to cite into our mayor's court. He promised that was gonna happen. And it didn't happen. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're absolutely correct.
So, I'm a little suspect of things that are said and not put into writing.
Well, the 3 cars and the amount for the first 3 years will be put into writing.
So you're saying in 2025, you're telling me that in 2025, they're not gonna come back and say, well, or the township trustees aren't gonna say, oh, we're convinced now, and we need to have 3 cars? I'm concerned about that. Because I think Gary brought up some things, and I talked to Jerry Meister today, who's not here, but she fully supported some of the concerns he had about how this contract was negotiated. Gary, you want to speak to that or not?
I basically said that we have no representation whatsoever in this contract. And pretty much, there were a lot of questions that needed to be answered. So, for example, you didn't believe there would be the 3 cars, and that needed to be answered. And there was a few other ones, I can't remember all verbatim, I'm just saying there was, and I think our solicitor would agree that I don't think we entered into any contract where we haven't had proper representation and questions answered. That would be, I would hope, come from our solicitor. And in the fact that that was void, I wouldn't take any of this as to heart. Because if we already, I'd like to ask the question right here, right now, what exactly are we getting for what we're paying for? If we're not enforcing speed limits, such as the lady's concerned here, if we're not enforcing the radar, if we're not enforcing the truck braking, engine brake, all I've seen, and I appreciate the fact that we've got patrols, a little bit more presence, but I heard there was incidents occurring throughout the village with fights and so forth that are probably going left unattended.
I haven't heard that.
No, okay, so I'll take that back. That, I heard that from one person, but I can't validate that. The point being is if people are making phone calls here and nobody's answering, then what are we getting? I will tell you what I understand, we've got one full-time car from 6 AM to 6 PM. The other car that we're supposedly having for the 24-hour service is that we've got a dedicated car, Cleves number 6 or number 9 or whatever the car number is. The other car that comes in from 6 PM till 6 AM in the next morning is one that floats around between Miami Township, Addiston, North Bend, or wherever, and comes in periodically or if they're called in. So I would be very suspect to say, well, are those 3 cars? And,
Nothing's totaling 3 cars by my knowledge.
well,
I'm confused at that.
Yeah, I have a quick question, and again, I'm going off here. If I look at what's in the green, you're saying in 2024, our costs are 480. I don't know if that's correct. I think our costs are more like 280 right now.
The cost at the top, excuse me, that is what the cost would be if you were paying the percentage that is allocated out towards the end of the month. We did 25.6%. If you were paying 100% of that, that's what the cost would be. The cost down below is the rolled in cost. I don't have your current contract because that was signed after I was gone.
It's,
279.
yeah, it's a little bit less than what that 282 is, but I think it's like 268 or something like that.
Yeah, and was that with the sheriff's department, or is our contract part of Miami Township and North Bend?
No,
Are these 3 separate contracts?
Only one.
That's what I thought.
Mike Hall signed that on December 14th, 2023, and it was approved by the county commissioners. What I understand with this contract, that contract would be torn up. We would have a reduction in the cost down to $228, I think $54,000. So I think I put it on the agenda, that it would be less. I didn't process that there was gonna be any guarantee in writing that in year 2025, they come back and say, and my concern isn't necessarily the sheriff's department, I'll be honest with you, my concern is more of the Miami Township's department. Because everything I heard over the last 3 years, okay, from one specific trustee, was they won the contract no matter what the cost was. Okay, they wanted that contract, and that trustee worked for the sheriff's department, and I believe was integral in the 2020 decision. And the reason I'm saying that is I have a file folder now, in Mike Rahall's office, with that trustee's name right on the front cover. So I'm concerned that we're gonna wind up coming down the road, and all of a sudden it's changed. Yes, Miami Township now agrees, we need 3 cars. And so we go back to that very costly contract. I don't wanna see that happen to our village. And I think I mentioned to you, I was concerned that this was a way to soften the blow of the fire rate. I had that conversation with you on the phone.
And I told you, it happened, the fire information was decided, this came in after that. It really the 2 have nothing to do with each other. So, you know, I guess if you don't trust this, you already have a contract in place. I'm fairly sure that they will allow North Bend and Miami Township to sign this amount separately. And you can keep yours, we'll have ours, and
That's a conversation we'll have later. We're
Yeah.
not gonna make that decision right now.
I wouldn't expect you to. So, yeah, it was, and it was pointed out to us. You know, you realize what you're asking us to do if we keep the percentages the same. We're gonna have to go next door, because we were in their office, to the county commissioners and say, yeah, well, we're gonna take less than what Cleves has already agreed to pay. And we said, well, we think that's fair. You know, if you're gonna make the adjustment for us, you should offer it to them. And they did. So
And it's gonna be in writing,
it'll be the same contract that you signed.
approved by the county commissioners for 3 years.
Yeah.
That was the
No.
question.
And I will tell you this, despite your mistrust of at least one Miami Township trustee, he was integral in that meeting in getting them to do this. He is recommending that we go to an outside counsel who's familiar with county contracts, to have them review that written contract that the village is already in, because he is leery of what's hidden in there as well.
Well, there's some stuff hidden, I agree with you.
So, he wants, before we sign it, he'll be recommending next Wednesday at our meeting that we go to someone who's very familiar with this contract negotiation and have them look at it on our behalf.
Did you negotiate our contract here? Or who did? Who did this for us that says we'll have a $54,000 decrease?
When we went to the county and asked them to spread the phasing cost out, one of the things that came up was, well, we'd like to keep, what do they call our division, the West Division?
Something, the Western,
They said, we'd like to keep the percentages the same, and it was a concern from them that if they did that, they would have to take less money than they already had you signed up for.
may I ask you why you didn't contact us for any representation or why we were not involved? Or did you? Simple question, I'm not, no accusation, just as a.
No,
Pardon?
my thought going in was, you had a signed contract, we didn't think they'd make that offer. I thought it was very fair of them to make that offer, you don't have to take it.
I realize that, my
Yeah,
point being,
but-
is I would have thought we would extend some token there to at least say, hey, we'll come with you to help kind of answer some of these questions that came up originally. And then say that, you know, our municipal building is being used relatively, what, free of expense?
Yeah, we're paying.
But that's our contract.
I understand that, but what I'm.
Well, it's not in the contract.
It's not in the contract. I'd like for them, I mean, we provide cleaning services, we provide copier services, we provide gas and electric, and then they park all their cars out there. It looks good for whatever reasons, but it's actually saving them some money.
Right, but you went into your meeting with Miami Township and North Bend to talk to them,
Yeah,
correct?
we went in and were negotiating on behalf of Miami Township.
Miami, okay.
They-
And the Cleves thing came up
they
as a
said-
separate issue because they have a signed contract with us already.
What they said to us was,
Bring it.
we would like to keep that district percentages the same moving forward. And that's what they said to us. You realize, and you're then asking us to take less than Cleves has already signed up. We said, yes, I didn't think it would be a big deal if they reduced your payments. But we didn't go there to negotiate on your behalf, we went there to negotiate on Miami Township's behalf.
Is this a signed done deal?
No,
So this is just basic discussion.
yeah, and as I said, at least one trustee is gonna recommend that we seek experienced counsel to go through that contract because he's leery. And as the mayor said, he used to work there, so, you know, he knows what to be leery of, I think. And I think it's good, I think it would behoove us as a township to have someone who's experienced with county contracts to look over that. Someone with more expertise than our current general counsel.
I think where they made up the difference, giving us some kind of discount, is the fact that they're charging you, Addison, North Bend, and Cleves.
Addison is one of
Or Addison, I'm sorry, I apologize. is the fact that they're getting more municipalities involved, and they spread the cost over a little bit. So kind of,
Well, the initial proposal was that same percentage. It's just the roll-in, and there was never any talk about when or whether there would be a review of the need. And quite honestly, the entire board of Miami Township wasn't happy that we were just being told, this is what you need, but I'll speak on their behalf, very little explanation of why.
so you didn't get your questions answered either, suffices to
Well,
say.
we didn't go and ask, this was not a meeting with the sheriff. So it wasn't about what they would do on patrol. There are issues that we have, my board has, with how and when and where they patrol, and how much they're out and being seen and how much they're not being seen. And those are all questions for the sheriff. But as I say, we bypassed the sheriff for those issues and went to the county administrator because the county commissioners have to approve this contract. So that's why we didn't talk to them about that. But once we agree on an amount, and before we sign the contract, we can talk about accountability.
And I think we talked about accountability at first, and kind of put that into the contract, so we know for sure there'll be some way to enforce that accountability.
Yeah, I'd rather them say, yes, we're gonna, well, they've said, we'll do this amount. And now, we look at the contract, and maybe we figure a way to write in some accountability in there. That would be, that's always me, I always want something that's measurable.
When do we have to have a decision?
Oh. No time soon. The trustees haven't even discussed this in a meeting. What we did is we invited Mayor Burkholz, Mayor Mears, Mayor Sammons to a meeting to say, hey, here's what they offer. And we invited Addison because we wanted them to, if they're part of our community, we wanted them to know what their options were. So, yeah, I think it was pertinent to have Addison to be there, so they have the option. I think they're gonna stick with their police department, and, certainly I think everybody in that room wishes them the best with that, and hopes that they can succeed.
So, any new contract though would include all three communities, Miami Township, North Bend, and Cleves.
Correct.
They would all be in that contract, correct?
I think they would all sign that contract individually, but it would be the same contract.
Right,
Because one of those little hidden things that, probably it's not really hidden, but it's the cost of the vehicles. If we're all one district, we can't, Cleves bought a car, we bought a car, who's turning in to buy a car, those costs need to be split up by the percentage. We can't insure part of a car. You can't insure part of our car, we can't insure part of yours, so they've got to provide that insurance. So there's a whole lot of little devils in the details that need worked out. And those are things that, once we have a consensus on the amounts and the roll-in for this period is acceptable, then we go to work on the details. That's when we all got to go and negotiate with them, or more likely, Mr. Merkel and our attorney and whoever, cannot remember the gentleman's name, at North Bend.
Are you talking about
Scott,
Mr. Sullivan?
Scott, yeah, chief. So, because I almost said Bill Dieters, because his son used to be our attorney at Whitewater.
In North College Hills.
So, but anyway, that's when we go in and we talk about those details. And it gives you a chance to revisit it at that time and raise your concerns, I would think.
I trust your authority on taking that up with our solicitor and asking appropriate questions and informing counsel.
I think that's down the road, but I think we need to talk more about this whole thing. And we may come out of an executive session here later tonight to vote on that. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
I don't feel like I don't expect Miami Township to make a decision on this for a couple months.
Okay, if we got that much time, that gives us time.
Well,
Okay.
this is something we need to take our time on and do right, because this is a huge commitment for all of us.
And I want to avoid past mistakes that we made in the past that we don't do in the future.
And quite honestly, you know, this is gonna take some looking at. And I would say August would be a good time to put it back on your agenda.
All right.
That's what I'm gonna recommend to Miami Township. Because if we get somebody to look at it, we talk with them, and we have that meeting with, you know, the attorneys and
Thanks, Jim. I think we're gonna move on here.
I got one.
Appreciate you being-
Any minute brevity to get this my strong point?
No, I think the problem is we got a lot more to go, and we got an executive session to do.
I got one question before you go. I think Gary answered this in part, but I was going to ask the question. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Department has a fully functional substation right here,
Correct?
and they're not paying a dime for it?
No.
What the hell is with that?
Jim, you wanna answer that? You were here when that was negotiated.
I will tell you what the premise was, as I understood it at that time. First, and I do believe that it's good to have the presence in your community. You can disagree with me, but I feel that way.
It doesn't, everybody knows those are parking areas.
Yes, it's a parking lot.
Well.
I don't think it hurts, I don't know how much it helps, but I don't think it hurts.
So, and it was my understanding that once we came to an agreement with everybody, then the sheriff would pick up his costs. If you recall, I broke out all the utility numbers and everything, based it on a percentage for the part of the building that they would be using, and that's what that number was for. You know, what should they pay? I think they should pay.
Don't disagree.
So,
I don't
you won't
think
hear me
everybody
say
in
that
the
they
village
shouldn't.
disagrees.
I would tell you, if I had a home for them in Miami Township, I would scarf them up in an instant at the
I've
president.
got plenty of room up there, Jim.
So, I will tell you this, when the large entire west was the proposal, Whitewater Township was trying to figure out where we could house that division in our township.
And you can have,
So,
I don't think it benefits us at all, I'm sorry. I just don't.
all right, so I know you guys got a long night. Here's one thing. If you've ever been to the community center of Whitewater Township, our administration building sits in the rear of that property by the ball fields. I'm a concealed carry permit holder. I work other jobs, so I would be in the fiscal office late at night, like Cindy is at our place. And people would come back there and they'd be knocking on the door going, "Hey, can I use the bathroom? Can I get a water?" And I'm sitting there going, there's a thin piece of glass between me and them, and they're obviously not in their right mind. My gun is locked in my vehicle, as it's required to be, and I couldn't get to it if they broke in and chased me. Yeah, I'm not that guy. You know, my option is lay on the ground and curl in the fetal position and hope they don't kill me. So, the sheriff's department, when we built that building, had an office there. So I said, why aren't they using this anymore? They clean up after their dinner or something. I'm like, well, you know what? I own a piece of property down the street. So I went to the sergeant who comes to our meetings and said, hey, you guys have a substation on private property? He's like, I guess, why? I said, I'll put you a mobile home in down my mobile home park. He said, what do you want for it? I said, nothing. I just want to put a sign up that says sheriff's substation. You see a car parked there. Well, they started using when the trustees found out I made that offer, they were like, well, wait a minute, why aren't they using our building? They started coming back there. Nobody comes back there at night anymore because there's a car back there a couple times a night. They come in, they use our copier, and they use our refrigerator. We have the presence. They come in when I'm there, they say hi, do their work, fill out their paperwork. I find it beneficial to have them there.
You have a good opinion there, Jim. Thank you.
Thanks for your help.
I agree with you, by the way. I may be the only one.
That's all
All
right.
right.
I didn't
I don't
say
think
you
it
had to
hurts.
agree, I just wanted to give you
I
I
one.
just-
don't know how much it helps, but I don't think it hurts.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.
I'm gonna try to be as quick and as brief as I